Hello, I'm Nthabiseng Mosia.
Nthabiseng grew up in South Africa, and that's where she first experienced the problem of light. See, sometimes there was no light because they had power cuts.
If there was a power cut, I would have to study by candlelight because we didn't have a generator.
When she started working across the continent, she realized that the majority of people don't have access to electricity.
Over 50% of Africans today don't have access to electricity.
So, together with her co-founders, she decided to start Easy Solar. They distribute and install solar solutions that provide electricity to over 1 million people across Sierra Leone and Liberia. They provide standalone solar solutions, not just to help turn on the lights, but to help people go to school, run businesses, and work online. There's so much opportunity with electricity.
Electricity is the foundation of modern life. It's a basic right that enables almost everything today, from agriculture, fintech, education, healthcare, and so much more.
Thanks to Nthabiseng, millions of people can now see a brighter future.
Wow. So, Nthabiseng, you are joining us all the way from Sierra Leone, and as we watch you online, we here are immersed in your world of solar energy, continue to power and illuminate the continent. The judges are ready for you. Over to you.
Good afternoon. Electricity is the foundation of the modern world, and yet today, 567 million Africans, more than half the continent, lack access to electricity. As somebody who has faced the impact of power cuts and knows its impact on daily life, I believe this to be an injustice. And this is one of the reasons why I co-founded Easy Solar, which operates in some of the most energy-deprived parts of the continent, namely Sierra Leone and Liberia, where 75% of the population are off the grid. However, what we know is in the absence of formal electricity, people are still making investments in alternatives like generators or battery-powered torchlights. And when we size this annual spending in our focus markets, we estimate it to be about $1 billion opportunity. And so in 2016, we sought out to tap into this opportunity in two ways. The first is to make electricity for all accessible by establishing a distribution network of community-based agents in rural areas and shops in urban hubs. And then to make electricity for all affordable by offering a range of solar solutions that are upgradable and powered by smart technology, enabling us to finance these systems at a price point that people's pockets can afford. We offer two types of solutions. The first is what we call Power in a Box, which are plug-and-play, easy-to-install solutions targeted at rural and peri-urban households, starting from $50 to $3,000 and financeable up to 24 months. The second type of solution is what we call power solutions, and these are customized, tailored solutions for larger residential, commercial, and industrial clients, and they start from around $5,000. This is one of our customers. Her name is Kadiatu Toure. She lives in Western Sierra Leone, and she started off by buying one of our basic kits that can power a few lights and a couple of appliances. She paid it off really well over 12 months on her credit plan, and so using our internal algorithm, we gave her a credit score, which she used to upgrade to a solar freezer to start a business in her community. This is one of our installations in northern Sierra Leone. It's of a hospital that is now completely using solar to power their life-saving equipment for their patients every day. We have a very wide distribution network of around 400 sales outlets and customer service points in 2 countries, and about 1 million people are powering their lives every day with the Easy Solar system. In the process, we've created 800 clean energy jobs, all while having a net positive impact on the environment. We've grown a lot in the last 5 years, starting from around $800,000 in 2018 and leveling off to around $7.5 million last year. And we see no signs of slowed growth, as we see the demand for off-grid energy, and particularly solar, continue to grow. So I'm here today because I know what it feels like to feel powerless in a broken system, and funnily enough, I actually think we are the ones that are best positioned to change those systems. So I hope my example and my company inspires others to light up lives in their communities with the problems they face. Thank you.
And now, the Q&A with the judges from Joe to Bukun and then Diane.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Nthabi. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Okay, so I think your business has a fairly straightforward model, which is you purchase solar products and then you try to distribute that to your customers. Can you tell us how you acquire the customers and how labor intensive that is, and how do you manage that agent network?
Sure. So I think, thank you very much for the question. So in the beginning, when we started out, there was a perception of solar as something that was only really, available to really rich people. It was very complex, and so there was this idea that solar wasn't for the average rural last mile customer, and there were a lot of promises, broken promises, either by the government or development programs that had started and failed. And so a lot of what we did early on was really to look for community-based agents, so people who have sales experience in their communities and who are looking to provide also an impact. And so we work with these community-based agents and with the community leadership to really establish and build up that agent as the focal point of the solar solution. And then what we do is we provide community demonstrations. We actually show people the product. We showcase night demos so people can see. And then really what we do is, after training up the agent, we let them acquire customers over a trial period. And a lot of what the initial challenge was, as I said, the perception. And so a lot of customer acquisition was really focused on training those agents, demonstrating. But like any new technology, it was early adopters in the beginning, and so progress was slow. But in subsequent years and subsequent months, as people really saw the product for themselves, electricity is one of those things that when you're in a rural community and it's dark and you have one house that's lit up, it sells itself. And so as people really saw, okay, we meant what we said, if there was a problem, we serviced the warranty. The main point of customer acquisition is word of mouth nowadays. And so people actually will tell a friend, and they'll come into an Easy Solar store. But really, we started with those agents in those communities where people felt the problem and face that challenge.
How many agents are there?
Yes, so we have about 350 agents across 2 countries.
Right. I ask that question because I think a lot of the models, whether it deals with customers in the community or farmers and things like that, all require kind of a sales force, if you will, that you roll out. Just on the agents, do you manage them with regional managers, and what is the compensation structure for these agents?
Yeah, and I think you did have a second part of your question, which is how labor intensive it is, so I can talk about it. So yeah, for each of these agents, we group them into zones. And so there'll be a sales supervisor who will be, so we do not just sales, right? So we offer these products on credit. And so these agents are more than just like sales agents. They provide customers the first point of customer care. If there's any issue, they'll bring it back to a centralized point where we'll fix the problem. And so they require management not just for the sales incentives, but also for the after sales and the collection. So we have sales supervisors, roughly around 10 agents will be managed by one supervisor. And then we'll have a regional territory manager who will manage like a couple of districts or one large district in a country. So it is quite labor intensive, but to be able to provide the service and the quality we need to not just sell the systems, we need to provide customer care, after sales, and also do the collection. So that's why it's quite a labor intensive model.
Okay, and just one more question. When I was looking at the materials of all the entrepreneurs that are here today, I think you're the only one in your cap table has shares reserved in an ESOP for employees. So I'm very curious about that. And of course, having come from an entrepreneurial background, equity-based type of incentive is very, very important for employees and for especially at the early stage of starting a company. So tell us about your thinking about rolling out that ESOP.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's about the values that we had as founders, which is that it's funny because I'm on Africa Business Heroes as one person, but it's really a team, and I think anybody who's in entrepreneurship knows that it's blood, sweat, and tears of everybody. And so I'm representing a whole family and a force. And so it felt disingenuous or unfair that people would, invest. And often it's a crazy idea, right? Traditionally, people think of the grid or mini grids, and what we were doing was quite novel. And so there were a lot of people who were taking a gamble, sometimes taking pay cuts because, as a startup, you really are trying to build talent while managing costs. And so we wanted to reward people with that. And I think also we're also such a mission-based business that people don't just join because they want to have a salary. They really want to create light in their communities and give back where they see something broken. And so the least we could do was set something aside so that, that blood, sweat, and tears, which we didn't even have to, we didn't have to have an ESOP for that, but I think it was more of a reward rather than incentivizing people to have that attitude. And so, both it applies to senior leadership, but then also to the entire company as well, across all levels.
Yeah, thank you. Teams are very important. It's important to have a good team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hello.
You look amazing for someone who is getting ready to pop. Okay.
Thank you.
I want you to know you look absolutely amazing. You look good, and I hope you feel good too.
I do. I feel really good.
Fantastic.
A little nervous, but good.
We're waiting for this baby then. Okay. So, first question. How do you fund your cash flow, considering you have deferred payment plans?
Yep. So we finance the company through a mixture of, it's a blended capital stack. So we have some grants, which is mainly funded for new product innovation and expansion of sort of more difficult areas. But the bulk of the company is financed through a mixture of debt and equity. Debt is really for the working capital side of things. So, we bring in the products, and there's anywhere between a 4 to 6 month lead time to, from production to ship them in. And then we offer, as I mentioned, financing schemes up to 24 months. And so, debt is actually the main way we finance, that very long working capital cycle. And then with equity, so it's about a 2-to-1 ratio of what we've raised so far of debt to equity. The equity is really to finance growth, invest in talent, build systems. So that's pretty much how we're funded.
And what about the cost of that? What's the impact on your pricing for your low-end customers?
Yeah, so it's not cheap. So there's 2 answers to that question. So dollar-denominated debt is single-digit and affordable, but I think as we've all seen over the last year or two, especially in Sierra Leone, our focus market, while it can look quite affordable, if you have any foreign depreciation, it's quite expensive. So we've been fortunate enough to have local currency financing that is double digits. We do have to pass that on, to our customers in the form of a spread that we do on our credit plans. That being said, that's why, we do offer up until 24 months, and in some rare occasions, 36 months. And so while that interest rate is quite high, we're trying to price that weekly installment or the monthly installment, which starts from as little as $1 on a basic solar lantern, or like a kit will be about $3 per week. And, really so that the amount people that are paying every week or every month is a saving or equivalent to what they'd be spending on alternatives. So, yeah.
So how has that financing structure impeded your growth?
I would say having local currency debt after last year saved us. If anything, if we weren't hedged, we would have probably gone under, just because the exchange rate depreciated by around 60%. So I do think while it is expensive to have that, it's quite expensive. It's less expensive than having US denominated debt. To answer your question more specifically, it does mean that, we do have to, maintain sufficient gross margins and continuously grow and collect to be able to fund our operating expenses. So it is an intensive business when it comes to the working capital cycle. But I will say we did, we have achieved profitability, so we know it is possible. The last 2 years have been a bit challenging, but we have been able to, show that it can be a sustainable model in the absence of some macroeconomic challenges that I think everybody's facing over the last year or two.
So in terms of the future, and for you to continue to grow, knowing those limitations, what are the options you're considering for dealing with your financing structure?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's, I think, probably three things. The first is governments of the world, we're not on pace to meet SDG 7, right? And I think there's been an acknowledgement that around 600 million Africans will still be without power by 2030 at the current pace. So we're seeing a lot of initiatives, including demand-side subsidies and development programs to subsidize the costs of these solar home systems. So there are, I think one of the most successful ones was a Nigerian results-based financing program that actually meant that 50% of the people who had access to electricity last year were through solar home systems. So we're seeing like a policy and sort of impetus to realize that these cannot be entirely commercial models. They need some level of subsidy or financing. And in Sierra Leone and Liberia, we are tapping into those. So I think that's one, just realizing it's not 100% commercially. It has to be concessional financing as well. I think the second one is carbon finance. So we're a solar company. We also provide access to clean cooking solutions. And so the carbon markets, COP28 is just about to kick off soon. And there was the launch of the African Carbon Markets Initiative. We're seeing a lot of interest in really like tapping into carbon finance as a way of subsidizing models like ours as well. And then I think, the third thing we're looking at is just looking at the business streams and business units that are the most profitable. So we have done a bit of an exercise in realizing that Power Solutions business unit, which I mentioned for commercial and industrial clients, these clients can afford to pay upfront. Sometimes they can even pre-finance. And so we're seeing actually, and the biggest driver of our growth over the next 3 years will be through that, which will cross-subsidize the more rural, low to middle income segment of the business.
Okay, I'll just stop. Just for full disclosure,
Okay.
I chair the board of Delight, so
Okay,
I just
yep.
want to, so I fully understand the sector.
Okay, all right, cool.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, how are you?
Congratulations for making it to the top 10, and congratulations on the soon-to-come ABH baby. Anita said you have to name the baby Anita, so I hope you heard
Apparently so, yeah. It's on the birth certificate already.
So, we've seen that your business is labor-intensive, capital-intensive, so that's difficult, right? And you say that the lead time when you import these solar panels from China, is that right?
China, yes, Shenzhen. Yeah.
So if you want to reduce that cash conversion cycle, have you thought about maybe vertical integration? So you can maybe assemble the solar panels somewhere on the continent if you want to continue growing, because otherwise this business model is difficult to scale. What do you say?
Yes, I think there's probably two approaches. The one is vertical integration, as you mentioned, and I think for us, given the way the business is structured, probably the easiest way to do that is through strategic partnerships, which we are looking at. I think the other way, and there have been companies in the industry that are now looking at cross-diversification. So you have, a customer base, you have credit history, you have a distribution network. What are some of the other types of services that, with shorter lead times that, you can provide? So one of the things, for example, we've introduced smartphones, which, doesn't seem like a natural progression path, but, people can now, upgrade and upsell using their credit history. So, I think for us, definitely looking at vertical integration from a strategic perspective, and that would be through partnerships, but then also looking at cross-subsidization. So I'll stop there.
Great, thank you. Subsidy, in my view, is not a very sustainable business model and not very predictable. But I hope you get the subsidies you need to continue growing your business from probably governments and grants from donors. So that's what you're targeting.
I think it's one aspect. So I did mention there is the part of the business which is our commercial and industrial business unit, which, if anything, with the rising cost of generator fuel for larger companies, that is in and of itself a very profitable, less intensive from a financing perspective than the traditional solar kit.